So now we'll have a talk by João Paulo Brito from University of Pará. Okay, and he will talk to us about gravitational Bremsstrahlung and the Fooling Davis Unruh Thermal bath. So please.
Thank you very much for the introduction. So, and this presentation was based on a paper published in Physical Review D this year, and made in collaboration with Professor Crispino and Professor Tsushi Guchi from the University of York. So, um, so general relativity is the best theory we have describing the gravitational interaction. And these are the two very important results: the observation of gravitational waves and the capture of the shadows of the black holes. And we saw many results associated to these two subjects in the symposium. So they provide strong evidence for the existence of black holes, and but general relativity is a good theory of gravity, but it is a classical theory, and we believe that it must be quantized. So of course, we all know that there is a quantum theory of gravity still missing, but we have some important results that, in some sense, is a kind of manifestation of the quantum nature of gravity. So these results comes from the unification of general relativity with quantum field theory in curved spacetimes. This is the so-called Hawking effect. And the Hawking effect predicts the emission of particles by the black holes. And for instance, if you have a static observer outside the black hole, this observer will interact with the thermal bath emanating from the black hole. And the temperature associated with this thermal bath at infinity is given by the so-called Hawking temperature. But this observer here is accelerated, so you can think that if we evoke the equivalence principle, for example, so we can think of a similar effect even in flat spacetime. And this effect is called the Unruh effect. It was Unruh conducted a systematic investigation of the Hawking process, and he realized that this accelerated observer in flat spacetime would see a thermal bath similar to the the thermal bath of the Hawking radiation, and with temperature proportional to the corresponding acceleration. So the Unruh effect is important because if you want to describe physics in the accelerated frame, the frame of the accelerated observer, you need to take into account the Unruh effect. So the Unruh effect, there is a comprehensive review about this subject written by Crispino, Iguchi, and Matzes. And as I said, you need to take into account the Unruh effect if you want to describe the physics in the accelerated frame associated with the Minkowski vacuum. For example, an inertial observer in empty space would measure no particles in this vacuum state, the Minkowski vacuum state. But if you are an accelerated observer in this same state, you will perceive this vacuum, Minkowski vacuum state as a thermal distribution of particles associated with your Killing vector field. So this thermal distribution is given by the Bose-Einstein thermal factor here. These particles associated with this thermal bath are called Hindley particles because these accelerated observers are called Hindley observers, and they live in the so-called Hindley spacetime. So, if you want to describe the physics associated with this stage in the accelerated frame, you need to take into account this thermal bath. Of course, the theoretical description could be different, but the physical outcomes must be the same. So one example of this is the radiation, the production of radiation, the so-called Bremsstrahlung. So in the common sense, if you have a uniformly accelerated charge, this charge will emit radiation seen by an inertial observer. So this observer, for example, can solve Maxwell's equations, separate the static part of the field and the radiation part of the field. So here we'll conclude that radiation is being emitted by this uniformly accelerated charge. But now you can think of, in the point of view of the co-accelerated observer, the observer that is co-accelerating with the charge. And for this observer, the charge is static, so he should not observe any radiation being emitted here. So the classical, this is in some sense a paradox, but the classical solution is that this observer has not access to the radiation field because the radiation field is beyond its horizon. So an observer that is accelerating has a horizon and he has not access to the region of the Minkowski spacetime beyond this horizon. So this is the classical solution in some sense. But the thing is that the response of this charge to the quantum field must be equal for any observer. So in this initial frame, the observer is seeing the emission of photons, for instance, by the charge. But in the accelerated frame, if you take into account the thermal bath associated with the Unruh effect, the charge is interacting with this thermal bath. And in the final response rate of this interaction must be equal to the one calculated here in the initial frame. So this is the main topic of this presentation. We will calculate here the response rate in both frames and show that this response rate is only equal if we take into account the Unruh effect. So we will do this for the graviton case. So here we have the response rate. This is the emission amplitude for one particle, and this emission amplitude is written as this expression here, where this S is the interaction term that we added to the action and contains the interaction of the classical source to the interaction of the classical source to the quantum field. Here, the classical source will be a stress energy, and the quantum field will be the graviton field. So what we are doing here is analyzing the gravitational radiation in the flat spacetime associated with, for instance, a point mass in uniform acceleration, and how this source interacts with the gravitons from the thermal bath in the co-accelerated frame. So the photon case was done about 30 years ago by Iguchi, Matsas, and Sudarsky. So what they did was to calculate the response rate in the inertial frame for the photon field. Of course, the response rate is associated with the photon emission in this frame, but in the accelerated frame, there is no spontaneous emission because the charge is static there. But there is absorption and induced emission because of the thermal bath. And the thermal bath enters here in this thermal factor here, which is the Bose-Einstein thermal factor. And this prevents this term from vanish, and we have a non-vanishing response rate in the end. And if the temperature of this thermal bath is the Unruh temperature, the response rate is exactly equal to the one calculated in the initial frame using standard quantum field theory. So, yeah. Now let's see how it goes for the graviton case. First of all, the Minkowski coordinates we use is the usual rectangular coordinates. And here we have the accelerated trajectory of the point mass, which is a hyperbolic trajectory. Observers co-accelerated with this trajectory here are associated with the Hindley coordinates, which relates to the Minkowski coordinates by this set of transformations. And these observers lives in the Hindler spacetime, which is given by this line element here. And note that the Hindler spacetime, or in this case, is only a portion of the Minkowski spacetime, which is called right Hindler wedge. So here we have a point mass following this trajectory, but
in the graviton case is a little bit different because you have to take into account the agent driving the acceleration. So, for instance, if you consider the conservation of the stress energy tensor, you may choose this agent driving the acceleration as a string which is extended from the point mass to infinity, for example. So with this, you can write down the components, non-vanished components of the stress energy tensor in both frames, initial and accelerated frames. And in the initial frame, it is well known that the emission probability is given by this expression here, where these epsilon are the polarization matrix. The curly T is the Fourier transform of the stress energy tensor. And we can calculate this for fixed transverse momentum, which is given by this expression here. So the response rate, for the response rate, you need to factor out the interaction time here for this differential probability. And if you do this, you end up with the desired expression for the response rate, which is this one. And this is similar to the photon case. It is different only because of this number here and this number here. In the photon case, it is 1 and 4. So this is the result in the initial frame. And now we should calculate the same thing in the accelerated frame and see and obtain the same expression for the response rate. So in the accelerated frame, you have the graviton modes obtained in this paper here by Sugiyama, Yamamoto, and Kobayashi. They wrote the modes in this way, which are positive frequency associated with the Killing vector field in this frame. So there are the even and odd parity modes, but because of the form of the stress energy we have obtained, only the even part will be excited, and so we can choose only this part. And of course, the graviton modes in the right Hindley wedge are fully described by a scalar field, which obeys this equation here, and can be written in a normalized way as this expression in terms of the Bessel function of the second kind. And if you perform the same steps we did for the photon case, we obtain this expression, which is the same expression as the one obtained in the initial frame. And of course, take into account the thermal bath in this frame. So the main conclusions is that there are two main conclusions here. The first one is that a consistent description of physics associated with the Minkowski vacuum in the accelerated frame requires the Unruh effect. And in particular, we saw this for the Brehm-Strahlung, the case of the Brehm-Strahlung. And we saw also a more fundamental description of the Brehm-Strahlung in relation to the Unruh effect. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? So maybe I have one. I'm not very familiar with the topic, so this might be naive. So this was for Minkowski, right? Are there plans to do this with other backgrounds, like Schwarzschild maybe, or does it even make sense? I'm not sure if...
Yeah, you can do something similar to in the Schwarzschild spacetime, for example. You can choose, you can study the interaction of a static source outside the Schwarzschild space, outside the Schwarzschild black hole, interacting with the Hawking radiation, for example.
Okay. Any other questions? No? So let's thank Jean again.